Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and of course, continuing on with the Halloweenish reviews on the weekends. So yes, now we've come up to this, and I've been meaning to review this for quite a while, and well, here we are now, and I'm about to review it. Yes. Yep. That is an episode straight from one of the Discovery Kids shows, which of course being Tutenstein. Yes, I'm sure there's a good majority of you that are aware and have seen Tutenstein, so yeah. And as if Tutenstein itself, the show altogether, is not something perfect to watch around, say, Halloween time. Yeah, because you've literally got a undead, mummy boy pharaoh. Yeah, but the episode that I'm reviewing is, in fact, something Halloweenish. It's a full-blown episode of Tutenstein that is Halloween. It takes place on Halloween night. Yes, guys, that being episode 8 of Season 2 of Tutenstein, Day of the Undead. Yes, Day of the Undead. Yeah, because it's nice to see that and how fitting/appropriate that Tutenstein itself, it does something Halloweenish. Yeah. But before I talk more about Day of the Undead, the first things I have to say about Tutenstein itself, the show altogether, my earliest memories to the show, and yeah. Well, basically, shout out to my mom. Basically, she was the one that introduced me to Tutenstein. I can remember that she surprised me with a DVD of Tutenstein, and as far as I recall, the instant I watched the show, and the DVD I had because it had the first batch of episodes from Season 1, well, again, as I recall, didn't take me that long to really enjoy it. Yeah. And then eventually, I would watch a good chunk of Tutenstein on TV, on the Discovery Kids channel, and all the other shows that Discovery Kids had that I did watch a good chunk of, and I'm sure the same goes for you if you had watched anything Discovery Kids and on account of Tutenstein, because there was, say, Wilbur the Cow, that show where it's, puppet farm animals and the title character reading stories to his friends and, to solve some situations/problems, that. There was also Kenny the Shark. I think I probably did watch a little bit of Kenny the Shark because I do distinctly remember Kenny the Shark. Yeah, I'm sure you guys would too. And there was also Bindi, the Jungle Girl. Yes. Cute little Bindi, whom had her very own show, basically following in her father's footsteps. Her father had a show, and now she did. And yeah, not to mention that Bindi the Jungle Girl, it would come out just 1 year after the sad loss of Steve Irwin. But, I presume that, because, Steve, he does appear at times in Bindi the Jungle Girl, I presume that his appearance in the show, they were already filmed on, before he sadly passed away, but yeah. But yeah, overall, because, those shows I do remember seeing on the Discovery Kids, and of course, most prominently, Tutenstein. But yeah, just the memories I have of Tutenstein, and still, Tutenstein, it's such a memorable, it is, without a doubt, in my opinion, I'm sure, and I'm sure you would think so too, a very memorable show from the early 2000s. One of those, along with all those other great animated shows that us 2000s babies watched. Yeah. Anyways, so, with Day of the Undead itself, because this episode, it's great to see, and how fitting/appropriate it is that there is an episode of Tutenstein that's all Halloween. Not to mention that in this episode, Tut, for the first time, knows about Halloween and would start to learn what Halloween is. And it doesn't take him too long to know what Halloween is all like. And also, on account that, he tags along with Cleo, along with a couple of friends of hers. They do something Halloweenish, and, because if you've seen the show, then many times where Cleo would almost be exposed on account of Tut, because, anybody that knows Cleo, the bare risks that they would discover that, that there's an actual undead mummy boy, the Pharaoh Tut. Just, yeah. And everything that goes on in this episode, Day of the Undead, with its funny jokes and with its storyline, a ghost that Tut summons to really scare Cleo and her friends, most prominently her friends, and, especially since Halloween, it's very appropriate / fitting for Tut to be present out in the public, because, yeah, as if anybody's going to question a mummy boy, okay? Just, yeah. Of course, so yeah, even Luxor made that very clear to Cleo, but until I dive in / break down the episode itself in just a moment, but yeah. But to finish off with the first things I have to say, yeah. Day of the Undead, Tutenstein's very own Halloweenish episode. It's a really good episode of Tutenstein, and if anybody has seen it before, and if anybody sometimes would watch it around Halloween time, and if you're up for any nostalgia memories of the animated shows you watched in the early 2000s, yeah, makes sense. Okay, so with the first things I've had to say about the show itself and the show's Halloween episode now out of the way, now as always, for me, read the description / the story. But it's very short, yeah, because, yeah. Well, as if I need to read it, because basically, yeah, how Tut learns about Halloween. That's pretty much it. So, yeah, when looking up the description / the story of the episode, there really wasn't nothing that much. But anyways, all right. So with that out of the way, technically, let's now dive in / break down the episode itself, shall we? Okay. Well, first off, and if you've seen the show, then you know that they have some funny openings of whatever, is specifically going on inside of the museum. And in this one, well, yeah, two kids, Hillary and Jackson, well, because there's a lot of kids trick-or-treating, and some of them going to the museum. I presume that inside the museum, they're doing something Halloweenish, handing out candy, and getting to explore the museum. Yeah, on account of that. But a moment where the two kids, brother and sister, Jackson and Natasha, they go up to the Pharaoh's tomb, and Jackson daring Hillary to, touch the Pharaoh's tomb, go up to it and such, which she does so. Jackson didn't really think she could do it, but she does. But that is until Tut opens it and asks if they got an extra brush or something. Basically, Tut is in the middle of pedicuring his gross toenails. And of course that scares them, yeah. And then the intro plays, and well, yeah, then coming back to where we were, because yeah, the mom being there and assuring them that there's no, mummy chasing after them and such. And it just so happens that Cleo and Luxor, they're passing by and they overhear, and yeah. And because, yeah, again, Tut simply asked if there was an extra brush and such they had, because on account of him pedicuring himself, his disgusting toenails, which he does polish in the end. And yeah, to go ahead and mention the voice cast, Tut, being voiced by Janeni Ellis, if I said her full name right, again, you know me sometimes, and Tut's human friend, Cleo Carter, being voiced by Crystal Scales, and in this episode, Luxor, Cleo's pet cat, whom is also the servant to Tut, Luxor being voiced by Cosmo the Fairy himself, Darren Norris. And the main voice of Luxor is David Lodge. So yeah, there are plenty of episodes where sometimes David Lodge would voice Luxor, but sometimes if it's not David, it's Darren. So yeah. And fun fact about Luxor, maybe some of you know this, I don't know, because I just, feel like mentioning this, it's a perfect opportunity to mention this, and while I'm talking about Luxor, when Tutenstein was in early production, the late legendary Roddy McDowall was going to voice Luxor, but after McDowall's sad passing, he was then replaced with David Lodge, who latter did a Roddy McDowall impression for the character and in honor of McDowall himself. Yeah, and I'd say David Lodge and also Darren, they do pretty good voicing doing a good impression, I should say, of Roddy McDowall as Luxor. Yeah, the spirit of McDowall lived on that show. Yeah, on account of their impressions of him. And also, while we're on that subject still of voice acting and such, the museum guard, Walter Jacobs, you know, the cool dude and such, you know, he actually was originally considered to be a much older guy, and he was originally going to be voiced by Don Knotts. That would have worked if they had gone with that, but, you know, in the end, how the character of Walter Jacobs turned out was still good, yeah. But could you imagine if we actually did have, say, McDowall and Don Knotts a part of the voice cast of Tutenstein? Well, that would have been great, but no hard feelings, because whom eventually would voice those two characters, they do an excellent job, without a doubt, yeah. Anyways, so with those two fun facts out of the way, let's continue on with the episode. Because, yeah, Cleo would then mention to Tut about Halloween, and on account of the kids, and whom we see a couple of more roaming around the museum that are dressed up for the occasion, Cleo explaining to Tut, basically, because the different various costumes they wear, and they go out in the evening time, go up to people's doorsteps, knock on the door, or ring the doorbell, and say trick or treat, and they would get candy. And when mentioning the word candy, that's what triggers Tut. Now he really likes the sound of Halloween, and wants to get some candy. But Cleo, at first, she has no plans for Tut to tag along with her, because she'll be with a group of friends of hers, and they'll be having some fun doing Halloween. But Luxor makes it clear to Cleo that tonight's the perfect night for Tut to go out in public, because, you know, everybody's in costume and nobody will suspect him whatsoever. Very true. And Tut assuring Cleo that, you know, he'll cooperate and all that, and even when Cleo asks Tut that, you know, you better not embarrass me in front of my friends, and he has no intentions to. But, yeah, I think it would be bound to happen, knowing Tut. So later that evening, besides Tut, he doesn't need to dress up, because he's literally the costume, you know what I'm saying? Cleo, I believe that, yeah, she's dressed up as an archaeologist, well, if anything, very similar to, say, Indiana Jones, because, come on, who else would wear that getup than, say, Indiana Jones? The jacket and the fedora, come on. Luxor, well, all he's wearing is just, an antenna piece, you know, like an alien, basically, you know, cat alien. And when, Cleo's friends step in, 3 of them, we have, Natasha. She's dressed as, I presume, the Bride of Frankenstein. Natasha being voiced by Liza Del Mondo. Yeah, I think I got her full name right. We also have Kyle, being voiced by Jimmy Neutron herself, Debbie Derryberry. Yeah, I got that right. Even Doug Walker, he had trouble pronouncing her full name. Like, try and say her full name 10 times fast, right? Anyways, and also Debbie, she also voiced the kid Hillary at the start of the episode. Yeah, that was her. And Kyle, which being a boy character, and, well, knowing Debbie Derryberry, she's good at voicing boy characters. Jimmy Neutron most prominently, duh. So, yeah. So Kyle, he's dressed up, obviously, and if you couldn't tell by the headpiece, obviously you could, the monster of Frankenstein. Yeah, Frankenstein's monster, to say in that correct order. And we have Jackson. Jackson, he's this one boy character that, Cleo definitely has a liking to. And Jackson, I presume that, because it is Philip J. Fry himself, Billy West. Yeah, Jackson, I presume that, he's dressed up like, say, something Grease-related. You know, he's kind of like got the Elvis hair or something. But just, I think overall it's something Grease-related, you know, because the get-up that, like, say, the characters of Grease wear, anybody that goes for the Grease look. Yeah, anyways. So, they all come to Cleo's house, and the introductions are made, you know, between her friends and Tut, and they don't really suspect anything. But, you know, they smell something very, bad, because, well, Tut being an undead mummy, yeah. and Cleo's saying that Tut is from Wisconsin and disguising his name, calling him Stein. I'm sure anybody would go by Stein. But overall, because, yeah, then Cleo mentions on account that they're smelling something from Tut. Well, because of all that cheese that they make at Wisconsin. So, yeah. Yeah, sometimes cheese, they can have a horrible stench later on. Yeah, if they go bad. But, yeah, and Tut is excited that, everybody is going to go trick-or-treating, but not them. And they view that being something for babies. And it would lead to them technically referring to Tut as a baby. But, I am not a baby and such. Just, yeah. But what they're doing, actually, is going to a house that's next door to Natasha's, the Silverman's house, where they really have decked up their house very Halloweenish and horror and all that, and you can roam around and such, yeah, with what they've achieved and all that. Basically, like, anybody who would decorate their house and allow people to come in and, like, their very own, like, spooky house, all that. So that's what they do. So when going to the Silverman's house, and, even Tut at one point tells them what he finds scary, and, man, going into so much detail about blood flowing and all that, just, yeah, the specific stuff that Tut explains, he finds scary. And, yeah, it sounds like it, but they just find it rubbish, Cleo's friends. And, well, yeah, so far it seems that, yeah, Tut is not making a good impression, and, of course, on account of embarrassing poor Cleo. Well, that's Tut for you. What did you really expect, Cleo? What did you really expect from Tut? Do you think he would cooperate and so on, and not embarrass you, even though it's unintentional of him? Just, yeah, anyways. So we have the Silvermans, and, yeah, because Mr. Silverman, most prominently, being voiced by Michael Bell, yeah. And he also voices the ghost, whom we see just a little later. We're getting up to him. Yeah, so the Silvermans, having them explore around their house, and while they roam around the house, and at any point, they pop out and scare them. Yeah, so all the Halloweenish decorations they have through their hallways and all that, just, yeah. Well, they're digging it, but Tut, not so much. And that's when, yes, Tut would then turn to Luxor and mention to him that he will really cook up something that's really scary and spooky and to scare the living daylights out of Cleo and most prominently her friends by summoning/resurrecting a ghost that, according to Tut, when he was a little boy, his mother shared him these scary stories about this one ghost by the name of Aquin-Om-Cow. Yeah, I think I said that right. Basically, what he did was, and he was like a magician, he would turn his victims into little bugs, like cockroaches, and he would feed them to the scorpions. Jeez, that's cruel, gruesome and such. And, well, after he died, the spirits and such, his spirit was banished to the underworld. And, yeah, from there on. And Luxor, I mean, he finds this very terrifying with what Tut has explained about this one ghost and with Tut's plan to summon him and do some spookiness, which Tut does so with his pharaoh staff, yeah. Summoning the ghost of Aquin-Om-Cow, and, yeah, he's unleashed, he's present, and ordering his ghost to terrify Cleo and, most prominently, her friends. But little did Tut really realize that, Aquin-Om-Cow was going to do basically the total opposite. Sure, I mean, of course, he would scare them, but he plans to eat his victims. And now that's a really bad sign, so, yep, didn't think that very clearly, did you, Tut? Anyways, so, yeah, as they proceed on touring/exploring through the Silverman's house, even when, yeah, like I said, a few times that the Silvermans themselves, they would come out and scare them, well, at one point, they do encounter what they think at first is a really cool achievement that the Silvermans pulled, top-notch special effects, with this ghost they're seeing. Even Cleo thinks so too, but a little later, and a little montage of where we see them running around, they're screaming, but in a humorous way. They're having fun, of course. Funny screaming, you know, ah, ha, 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 all that. Well, yeah, as it proceeds to go on, then at one point Cleo would discover that something about this ghost, even the ghost, mentioning his name. And that's when Cleo whips out her phone and does some research and learning that whom this ghost is, knowing all the details about him and being well aware of this ghost. And yep, of course it doesn't take her too long to realize that, yeah, this was obviously Tut's doing, which of course it was, yeah. And she meets with Tut and Luxor. They hide in a bathroom. Cleo, of course, confronting him about this, and even Luxor telling his master, Tut, that maybe he didn't think this very clearly. Just, yeah. I mean, all that Tut wanted to do is to just scare them, and to prove to them that he's not a baby, you know, and that he's into the scariness and such. You know, not to mention that Tut was at one point scared, just for a moment, when the Silvermans, they popped out. Yeah, for the first time. Yeah, that moment. But anyways... And, yeah, the ghost of Aquanum Cow, he pops in the bathroom through the toilet, and he went straight for Cleo at one point. Tut and Luxor, they save Cleo, and, yeah, well, and that's when Aquanum Cow, he's gonna try and, once again, go after Cleo's friends. And so it's up to Cleo, Tut, and Luxor to try and stop the ghost of Aquanum Cow, and to save, unbeknownst to them, save Cleo's friends. I mean, yeah, overall, they have no idea what's going on. Yeah. But yeah, eventually they try to defeat Aquanum Cow. Like at one point, and when they come to this one room where there's an organ, there's a tomb and all that, they try to put him in the tomb. There was a pumpkin that got inside of him and all that. He swallowed a pumpkin, a carved pumpkin, I should say. And yeah, but unfortunately, they're not really able to take down Aquanum Cow. And what would happen next is, well, and to kind of speed things up, because yeah, this would lead to where it would get out of hand quite a lot more for them. And when, yeah, that, man, because when they thought that the Silvermans were really achieving at this Halloween, not really, yeah. And at one point, because, yeah, a portal had opened to summon the ghost of Aquanum Cow, well, at one point, all three of Cleo's friends, and along with Cleo, Tut, and Luxor, they go down the portal. And at first, Jackson, Kyle, and Natasha, they think it's the Silverman's basement, and that they've really made it really awesome. They've really made their basement very themed looking and such, you know, but nope, that's not what it is, yeah. And, well, because when trying to figure out how to get out of the underworld and such, because, yeah, that's where they're at, and, well, at one point they do get separated. And Luxor was almost about to say this, but Cleo stopped him. Like, Luxor at one point thinking that maybe they got eaten or something, but no. And, yeah, because they got separated, and, yeah, where we see Jackson, Kyle, and Natasha at, well, they would once again come face-to-face with Aquanum Cow. And that's when they start to realize that, okay, this probably isn't something from the Silvermans. No, because they see something coming from a whirlpool, like a snake-like creature, an Aquanum Cow who appears again, and where he takes the form of a serpent, you know, snake and such, just, yeah. And they're really in for the horrors, for sure, yeah. This is no fun or anything like that. And, well, all three of Cleo's friends, they're about to meet their doom/demise. However, Tut has an idea, and if there's anything that Tut can do, well, he summons 3 of Aquanum Cow's victims that he took the lives of, and basically took them in the underworld, yeah. So Tut summons them, and, well, they manage to take down Aquanum Cow like that, because, yeah, they confront Aquanum Cow, and they go inside of him to reclaim their spirits, and they can properly go to the heavens and all that. But not just that, they will take Aquanum Cow with them so the gods can give him a proper punishment and such. Yeah. And yeah, so it's great to see that with the help of those three spirits, they thank Tut for, summoning them and taking on Aquanum Cow. Yeah, all ends well. And for Jackson, Natasha, and Kyle, well, after all that happened, and surprisingly, it seems like they kind of suspected, but no, basically they're just like, okay, that was all effects and all that. That was nothing, they're just denying it. Even when the Silvermans, they pop in once again, they just go, boo! Well, they run for that. They run out of the door. Yeah, Kyle, Jackson, and Natasha, they've had enough for tonight. And all that's left is, well, everything's good between Cleo and Tut. It all worked out in the end, and yeah. Now is the chance for Tut to do some trick-or-treating. That's what he wanted to do in the first place. And luckily, there's plenty of more time to do so. Yeah. Halloween night is not over. Yeah, there's still more time to do some trick-or-treating, and Tut proceeds to do so. Yep, the episode ends off where Tut is having a great time experiencing trick-or-treating, getting candy, all of that. Good for him. Yeah. Yeah. This episode of Tutenstein itself, Day of the Undead, the 8th episode of Season 2 of Tutenstein. It's a really good episode of Tutenstein that's all Halloweenish, and yeah, just everything from beginning to end. The episode's storyline, what goes on with the characters, the shenanigans they get themselves into on account of Tut, the ghost that they come face to face with, Aquanum Cow, very interesting, really cool. The animation, of course, fantastic. And the funny moments here and there, and how everything turns out great in the end, and Tut getting to have a proper Halloween experience, trick-or-treating like any other kid. Yeah, it's awesome. And the music, yeah, because the music being so memorable from Tutenstein. That Egyptian-style music that's, of course, most prominently in the intro of the show. Yeah. And the voice acting, fantastic, too. Just everything about Episode 8 of Season 2 of Tutenstein, Day of the Undead. It's a good episode that's something Halloweenish, straight from Tutenstein. And I'm giving Episode 8 of Season 2 of Tutenstein, Day of the Undead, well, why not? 10 out of 10 stars. Yes, 10 out of 10 stars for Episode 8, Season 2 of Tutenstein, Day of the Undead. And what about you guys? What did you think of the episode itself from Tutenstein, its very own Halloweenish episode, which being Day of the Undead? What are your fondest memories of Tutenstein, the show itself? And if you've seen this episode, and if it's one of those, episodes of any animated show from the early 2000s you'll sometimes watch around Halloween time. If you've seen anything else of Discovery Kids, if you grew up with a lot of shows that came straight from Discovery Kids, and most prominently Tutenstein, did you own any merchandise, any DVD copies of Tutenstein? Favorite episodes, favorite characters, just, yeah. And on account of the episode itself, yeah, but just overall, what do you think of the 8th episode of Season 2 of Tutenstein itself, Day of the Undead, with what all I've had to say, my review, and yeah, what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, guys, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Episode 8 of Season 2 of Tutenstein, its very own Halloweenish episode, Day of the Undead. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I will see you guys in the next video / review. And of course, continuing on, reviewing more Halloweenish materials on the weekends. Stay tuned, because what I will be reviewing next, along with one of my frequent review collabers / guests, guests that join me for review collabs, well, let's just say it has to do something with Dracula coming face to face and trying to take down the Bat of Gotham City. I'm sure you guys probably know what I'm talking about, just but just, again, stay tuned for that. Take care, and peace out.